September 2015. Emily Ridgewood lied to her parents and flew to Pennsylvania with one desperate goal: find her missing brother Kevin. 2 years earlier, Kevin had called home from a remote mountain town called Stillwater. His voice was strange, barely recognizable. He whispered, "Kevin doesn't live here anymore." Then, silence. Determined to retrace his steps, Emily set out to bring him home. She didn't know Stillwater had been waiting for her. Some towns don't just claim their visitors. They remake them. This is Emily Ridgewood's final recorded account, recovered from a phone found 200 miles from Stillwater. Her body was never found. When my brother Kevin vanished 2 years ago, it felt like a part of me had vanished too. I didn't know how to be around my family anymore, or around my friends. Now small conversations that used to flow naturally felt strained and uncomfortable. I saw the trauma in my parents' eyes, and my friends saw the sadness in mine. I didn't want to be a stranger in my own skin anymore. I wanted to find my brother and bring him back home, or at the very least, I wanted answers, so we could finally begin to heal. A week before he disappeared, Kevin called us from a gas station in Marshalls Creek, Pennsylvania, to say that there was a change of plan. Instead of driving home from college, he was heading to the town of Stillwater with some girl he'd met. 5 days later, Kevin rang us again from a withheld number this time. I answered the phone. He sounded withdrawn and confused, a far cry from the upbeat, confident guy we knew and loved. He'd changed. Even his voice sounded different. I knew it was him, but only just. I kept asking him what was wrong and where he was, but he didn't answer. When I called him by his name, he paused, his breathing heavy before replying, "Kevin doesn't live here anymore." That's the last time any of us heard from Kevin. The police started an investigation into his disappearance, but they never found him. The theories about where he went seemed to fade away with the breeze, and everyone else seemed to move on, except for us. Behind closed doors, Mom cried all of the time, while Dad buried his emotions deep inside of him so he didn't have to feel anymore. I needed answers. We all did. But I knew my parents would never let me visit Stillwater, so I lied to them. I said I was spending the weekend checking out college campuses with my friend Penny. In truth, she was actually spending the weekend with her boyfriend, who, despite her parents' disapproval, she was still dating. I flew to Pennsylvania and then sat on a sweltering bus for over 5 hours to reach my destination, the town of Stillwater. I don't know what I expected to find, but it wasn't this. With its vibrance of green and wooden houses angled into the mountainous surroundings, it felt almost overworldly. There was an eerie silence to this place. Even the insects seemed to chirp at a barely there octave. I put my first impressions down to feeling overwhelmed. I decided to go rest up in the guest house. Time wasn't going anywhere. I could ask around about my brother tomorrow. As I walked further up the slope and into the wilderness, I didn't see one person. All I heard was the gentle hum of my own heart, where hearts meant to hum. In this place, mine did. The thought that Kevin had walked this very path made me hold my backpack straps a little tighter and walk a little faster. On seeing a sign for the guest house nailed to a tree, I stepped off the road and walked along a dirt path, stepping around a single hiking boot that was there in the middle of it, several flies silently circling above it. It should have been weird, but it wasn't. I don't know why it wasn't. I don't know why it seemed normal. The guest house was a peach and white building that, due to its sloped positioning, gave off the illusion that it was falling into the ground. The door was lodged open with an old leather hiking boot, and as I walked inside, the sweet aromas of lavender and violets seemed to heighten around me. Old wooden benches lined the hallway and led to a small reception desk with a bell on it. I dinged it and waited, but no one appeared. Not knowing what else to do, I sat on a bench and scrolled through my phone, looking at old photos of me and Kevin. I don't know how long I sat there, that floral smell tickling at my nose, until, as I looked at memories from what felt like another life, I daydreamed so much that I didn't see the chestnut-haired middle-aged man appear behind the desk, only realizing he was there when he coughed to clear his throat. I grabbed my backpack and phone and hurried over to him. explaining that I had booked a room and had been waiting for a while. Ah, yes, my apologies. We had a naming ceremony in the forest, as is tradition this time of year. Miss, what's your name? He asked me, his eyes seeming to twinkle as he waited for me to reply. I opened my mouth to tell him, but the smell seemed to cloud my mind. For a few seconds, I couldn't remember who I was at all. But then it came to me, and I told him. Emily Ridgewood. I showed him a picture of my brother. I told him his name, and I asked him if he'd seen him. He smiled at me and replied, I'm afraid there are no Kevins here. He handed me a large brass key with a keychain that jangled in my hand. My eyes seemed to droop, but I managed to keep them open as I walked up to the first floor and found my room. I collapsed onto the overly soft bed and sleep claimed me. As I woke up the next morning, my open curtains let the sun creep through the gaps in the trees, and I was still in the same clothes. I looked around, noticing the smell of lavender and violet was prominent here. It seemed to radiate from the walls, and then, as I walked into the bathroom, I saw a bowl of potpourri next to the basin. I looked into the mirror and, frowning at my reflection, muttered, Kevin, is this whole place sickly sweet? I couldn't waste any more time. I needed to try and find clues, anything about where my brother could be. As I walked past the reception, a woman smiled at me and said, Morning, Kara. I hope you slept well. That wasn't my name, but I smiled back and replied, Great, thank you. It smells divine. I was meant to be asking about someone, wasn't I? My brother. I was meant to be asking about him. I left the guest house, the scent of lavender seeming to follow me as I walked into town and found a coffee shop. I ordered a coffee with cream and a sandwich, and I looked at my phone. Kevin. I was there to find him. A tiredness seemed to stick to me like pollen, but I needed to find him. My brother, Kevin. As I ordered cake from the waitress, I held the photo out and asked her if she'd seen him, but she shook her head. When she reappeared with a slice of cake, edible flowers garnishing it, she smiled at me and said, Cake's on the house, Kara. It sure is nice having you back. I didn't correct her, not when she'd just give me free cake. As I chewed on the edible flower, I thought about how pretty the name Kara was. I think I ate my cake too quickly as I started feeling a sickly tired feeling, one that led me to walk back toward the guest house. Sounds seemed to echo around me, playful laughter that bounced from the trees. It's 2 years today since Kevin came here. I didn't want to stop thinking about him. I came here to find him. He had to be somewhere. If not here, then somewhere. Everyone had to be somewhere. I stepped over the hiking boot, this time void of flies. As I neared the guest house, I placed my hand in my cardigan pocket to pull out my keys. Dried petals, lilac, and deep shades of purple tumbled out of it and fluttered to my feet. The smell stuck to the inside of my nose, and I twitched it as I laughed at how funny it was that the potpourri from my bathroom had appeared in my pocket. I hadn't put it there, had I? I don't remember doing such a thing, and I don't know why I would. I couldn't think about it anymore, as I needed to rest. I'd feel better after a good night's sleep. I'd look for him then, but not now, not when the colors seemed to dance around me. The man was standing at the reception desk, a grass stain on his shirt collar and a dirt mark on his cheek. He nodded at me and said, Kara, the next naming ceremony is in 3 days. You should come. I was only checked in for 2 nights, but not wanting to offend him or correct his name error, I nodded back and said, Thank you. I will come if I'm still about. Why would you not be? He stared directly at me. You always loved it here. I was about to say I'd never been here before, but the words caught in my throat. I hadn't been here before. Had I? I couldn't explain it, but somehow the warmth of lavender felt like home. As I lay on my bed and closed my eyes, I told myself it would be different tomorrow. I would feel less sleepy, and then I would find what I was looking for. That night, I dreamed I was out there amid the trees. I was laughing as I ran, gripping the flower headdress to my head. The laughter turned to shouts. Shouts of a name, a hand on my shoulder, a young man, his eyes as familiar as they were strange. He whispered to me, Kara, you always loved it here. He ran through the trees and I tried to find him. As I fell to my knees, the bark scratching at my skin and red bubbling there, I knew it was not a dream at all. In the coffee house, I looked at my grazed knees and the specks of red on my flowy white dress. It's ruined, I muttered, crumbling edible petals beneath my fingers and sprinkling them onto my slice of cake. You were always clumsy, Kara, a lady next to me chuckled. Stillwater sure was empty without you in it. I smiled at her as I bit into the cake, my mouth filling with the freshness of summer. I belonged here. This was my home. Someone changed my bedroom. Dozens of bowls of potpourri filled it, and in the closet hung a selection of flowy dresses. I rubbed a finger over the delicate fabric and imagined I was dancing wild and free. I imagined it until it became real. Music played around me as I swished out my dress, lifted my arms in the air, and spun on the spot. I loved to dance, didn't I? When my energy subsided, I sat on a tree trunk and stared at my grazed knees. The man from the guest house sat next to me. My knees don't look like mine, I said to him. Kara, your knees are truly yours. He gave a dry laugh as he helped me to my feet. We danced until we could dance no more. Only then did he lean forward, swipe back my hair, and say, "You found your name. That's worth celebrating." I sat beneath the glowing sun and celebrated being Kara in my own way. Then I went home, jumping over a hiking boot and a lilac-colored sneaker entwined in vines and lavender sprigs. They looked familiar. I think a girl named Emily had some once, but I don't know who Emily was. I needed sleep. It was a big day tomorrow. It was my naming ceremony. I would finally claim my name. I would dance past the trees until the name became me, and this time I wouldn't leave again. I always loved it here. That's what everyone kept on telling me, but I didn't know of a place before here. Only sweetness existed, a sweetness made for me. The next day I wore my favorite dress, blush pink with wildflowers on it. From its pockets I pulled out handfuls of potpourri and sprinkled them around me. The locals cheered and clapped, their long dresses and loose shirts floating in the air. They were happy for me, happy that I'd finally own my name. As dusk arrived, I felt nervous excitement, and I looked from my grazed knees to the fire ahead of me. I heard the screams, a twisted panic, and smelled the burning of flesh, but all I could think about was how my knees weren't as they should be. As I walked across the bark, one lilac sneaker on and the other foot bare, I laughed. This wasn't my sneaker. I would never wear such a thing. That was Emily's, whoever Emily was. A hand touched my shoulder and then pulled at my dress. I heard a ripping, but I kept on walking into more hands and more rips. I passed the people, the dirt path and aisle reserved for me. They told me I should never have left. They told me I had always loved it here. Lavender and violets were everywhere, but nowhere. The smell of burning flesh stuck to me like pollen. Pollen I couldn't itch off. I didn't belong here, but I never had. I saw the bonfire and the burning flames. I looked at the wooden ladder laced in flowers that seemed unburnt. It led up to it, up to the searing blaze. They pushed me forward. They scratched at my skin, and I walked there, toward the fire. I walked there to claim my name. The sneaker wasn't right. This wasn't right. The smoke tickled the inside of my nose, and I ran. My dress frayed like ribbons, but still I ran. I ran through the trees as they screamed a name I hadn't claimed. I had to burn to claim it, and then I could stay. I could stay here forever and be free. The audio logs recorded by Emily Ridgewood were discovered on a phone in a forest 200 miles south of the town of Stillwater, a year after she disappeared. Her backpack was also found, her clothes perfectly folded inside of it, and her purse zipped in the front compartment. It is unknown how Emily's possessions came to be there, But on investigating both the area where these were found and also Stillwater, no signs of Emily were discovered. The guest house described in her audio was boarded up, and according to locals, had been for some time. Emily's parents have come to terms with losing both of their children under mysterious circumstances. For them, questions linger in the late summer breeze, but they carry no answers. In the Appalachian mountain range, where nature roams free, it stands to reason that not all secrets are to be shared, and there is more to the gift of a name. If you've been listening to these stories and they become a part of your week, consider hitting subscribe. It helps us keep the circle growing, and it helps me keep making better videos for you. But more than anything, I'd love to hear your story in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.